listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 213, Blackmore's Night, Shadow of the Moon, Part 1. And coming to you from Dog Poop Studios here in the suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
Hear ye! Coming to thee from the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. I am the co-host, John, Sheriff of Nottingham, Matola.
Oh boy, how do I follow that?
That was worth it.
Coming to you from the center square. That's what it looks like on Zoom to me. Rich, hope I don't choke like the Bruins Shaler.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Wow. And coming to you from the soon-to-be boiling streets of Las Vegas, Scott, Mismatched Car Parts Haskin.
So, so what's going on with the car? What's the latest on the car?
So for those of you who remember way back when we recorded the first episode for the Stranger in Us All Rainbow review, my car blew a tire that day. The tow truck driver damaged the handle. I've been dealing with that ever since. It's now May 1st, and the handle has been replaced with a handle that does not match the car. They did not tell me on the estimate that they don't make it in the color of my car anymore. So my car is gray and the handle is black, but they didn't put on the estimate, how much it'll cost to paint it and all that. And so when I went to get it replaced, they still didn't tell me that. Didn't talk to me about any additional charges. They actually ended up charging me more for the part than what was on the estimate. And I made some comments on Yelp and Google in the spirit of John Matola. And they got back to me and they said, we'd love to know more. So I called them, and it has been a bigger nightmare dealing with their customer service agent, going back and forth with the shop. It's still not solved. They have refunded the difference of the car part, but they haven't refunded me for the difference in the estimate for painting the door handle. I'm still waiting on that. I think we're getting close.
When was it that we did that episode? How long ago?
It was January.
Oh my goodness. So now here it is May.
Yeah.
And you're still dealing with that.
Still dealing with that.
I was going to say I could text to our speech to text that for you, and you could put it on Yelp, but it sounds like you've already gone that route.
Oh yeah. Yelp and Google reviews. And if they keep it up, every Facebook group in Las Vegas.
Well, I can give you a pro tip from the guy who likes to make people's lives miserable when they don't do what I want them to. A very easy trick is to call them, their customer service, put on a voice and say that you're from whatever local station that does the, like here it's like Solve It Hank or whatever, that people bring their problems to, and then they do a news story on it. Mm-hmm. You call saying you're the producer from that show, whatever that show is, and that researching a story about a door handle that was, and I can almost guarantee you they will take care of it before they end up on, they think they're going to end up on the news.
Wow. Well,
that's a good tip.
The store manager called me after I talked to customer service and told me that it would be $200 to have it painted. And the customer service agent said, well, I'll talk to my manager. I'll get back with you. And when I talked to her a week later, she said, I never said I was going to do anything. And she was just like all of a sudden defensive and huffy. And I'm like, so if the store manager can't do the estimate right and the customer service people can't solve the problem, how am I supposed to trust your mechanics to touch my car? Oh boy.
Well, I think from the devious mind of Rich Shaler, you
pretend that you're a producer.
Your local guy is.
That's right. This is
Rich
John
has a pretty good
Smithman
radio
from
voice.
Local 5 News.
So, Rich, did you watch the Bruins game last night?
I don't watch a lot of hockey, but sadly, I did watch
Yeah,
that
same
game. I
here.
watched, I watched all the games in this series, and boy,
Yeah,
that was
that was
just
rough.
ugly.
After what is like, it set a record, right? They set a record for like the most wins in a season, like the best regular season ever. In
And that's what makes it
in
so
the
painful.
history of hockey, and blew it in the first round of the playoffs. My son is a big Bruins fan, and he had his jersey on, and we watched the whole game. And at the end of the game, he was really emotional. And I went upstairs, and the the trash can right next to the shower was his jersey. I was like, he's
To say
learning
he's
the ways
emotional
of
is an
being a Bruins
understatement,
fan.
huh?
Yeah,
I watched the highlights, and just watching that, like those little 10-minute clips they have on YouTube, that really looked like it was a good nail biter game, though. I mean, it was
Yeah.
pretty back and forth and pretty intense for a while.
It
But
could
I'm
have
just going
gone
to
either way.
say there's a reason Ray Bourque left Boston to win a Stanley Cup.
Yes, they had a
No,
brief period after that where they were okay, but
yeah. Last night's game was just tough, but the only thing that comes close is obviously living where I live. I think it was 2007. The Patriots had the perfect season and then blew
I
it.
remember. Yeah, they won
That was
They
a
only lost
heartbreaker too.
one game in the entire season, but it was the Super Bowl.
Right.
Not
So I
Oh,
mean, I don't know. I guess that's probably worse than this Bruins thing. But
yeah.
the choke comment was more geared towards my performance tomorrow evening. A little
Oh,
nervous
that's right.
about
That's
the
right.
singing at Fenway.
oh, you got it. That's going to be awesome.
Hey,
Speaking
the
of
crazy
Boston
thing is,
sports,
I'll be performing for more people than Blackmore's Night does.
considerably more, or more than Deep
Maybe it's
Purple does.
maybe I don't know. You just see some of those that Argentina and the Chile gigs. They're playing some pretty
Yeah,
big
those
crowds.
were pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, ties it together with the Boston sports. So we'll have to put a link in the show notes of your performance.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Well, let's see how it goes first.
Yeah, or I'll edit this out.
You might have to
I thi-
scrub it out later,
I don't know if I even told you guys this, but I got an email like a week ago from the guy that's putting it together, and he's like, "Hey, I completely forgot. Red Sox are playing the Blue Jays that day. Would you also like to do the Canadian national anthem?"
Oh,
And
Wow.
I thought about it for a few hours, and like everyone I talked to is like, "Dude, don't be an idiot. Like you're tempting fate. Like, do you even know the Canadian national anthem?" I'm like, I know the first part, like it goes over to Canada, and then after that, not so much.
it would totally be like that scene in Naked Gun where he pretends to be the opera singer and he doesn't know the
Yes.
words. He's like, and the flags and rockets, and he's getting all
I'd be like, and Geddy Lee and Maple Leafs.
Labatt Blue.
Wait a minute. The 12 Days of Christmas is not the Canadian national anthem.
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
That's right.
and
Yeah,
a beer in a tree.
just watch that Terrence and Phillip South Park episode where they sing it, and you'll be fine.
Oh my goodness. Well, it is upon us, but before we get there, the Deep Purple podcast is 100% listener supported and ad free. So if you receive some value from our show, please consider giving us some value back and support us. You can do so a number of ways. One is by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You will get the percussion instrument of your choice, or my choice if you don't let me know, sounded for you when we read your review. You can buy some merch at our Etsy store. You can also become a patron on Patreon or on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. All that money goes right back into the show, to making the show better, buying albums to review, getting first class flights for me and John to all of our vacation destinations. All goes right back into the show. You can also donate on Cash App, $DPPOD, or support us on Ko-fi if you want to help support the show. So speaking of our patrons coming in at the executive level, we have the $25 Uncommon Man tier with Ovis Nakvi and Purple Maniac. At the 15 squid tier, we have Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg. At the 10-pound Good Doctor tier, we have Dr. Jill Brees and Dr. Mike Catan. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, Clay Wambacher, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Mikkel Steen, and Will Porter, PhD, PP. At the $10 Someone Came tier, Ryan M., Jeff Bryce, Victor Campos, and Better Call Saul Evans. And at the Hughesoween by 2033 tier, Mr. Fielding Fowler. Thank you so much to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast. We couldn't and wouldn't. Actually, we would probably do it without you, but we wouldn't be as happy, because we're so glad to have support from all of you fine folks. Speaking of fine folks, something happened just the other day. I think it was yesterday. No, that was Sunday. 2 days ago, I went to the mailbox, and what did I find? That's right. I found a postcard straight from the edge of Connecticut. So this one has got this, I don't know if you can see this. My ring light's kind of reflecting in it.
Is that Lake Placid?
That's Lake Placid, yeah. It's a little overhead view of Lake Placid. And it says Olympic Winter Games, Lake Placid 1980. So this says, Nate, now here's a miracle on ice for you. Signed, Pete. And it says, an aerial view of the village showing the Olympic arenas and speed skating oval in the center of the Olympic headquarters at lower right. Then there's also, as a bonus, sister number 3 and sister number 2 of Peter Gardeau signed it. It says, hi, I'm sister number 3, but I'm the best one. And then it says, no, I am sister number 2. So sister number 1 must not have been available. I don't know if Pete was in Lake Placid or probably just in his attic and he found this. But thank you for sending that along. I'm going to put it in the growing stack of postcards I have to my side here. One day we're going to have to, we'll probably have a whole section on the website just devoted to all of our postcards from the edge of Gardeau. Thank you, Peter, for sending those along.
I have to say
file them in a
that's
card catalog or something, huh?
I'm sure. Don't say that. He's going to send me a card catalog.
He probably has one in that attic somewhere.
I'm sure he does.
That's some pretty extreme sibling rivalry when you have to write who's better on a postcard to a complete stranger.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm sure his sisters are lovely. Okay. So if you want to check out other like-minded podcasts, make sure to check out deepdivepodcastnetwork.com, where all those fine shows are listed on all sorts of bands and musical subjects you could ever even consider. Check them out for some other really great shows. Okay, here we are. The moment of truth, the moment we never thought would happen, the moment that John has been looking forward to the most of all. And that is Blackmore's Night. Can you believe it? Here we are in 1997. Blackmore's Night. Who wants to kick off with? I feel like there's so much to talk about, but when this whole era, the scene, when you first heard about what Ritchie was doing, what you thought about it, like when you got this album, if you got this album, who wants to kick it off?
One thing I would like to say before we even get into that is, do you want to talk about the 1-star review your dog left you? Because you kind of left everybody hanging on that.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I did gloss over that. So, we recorded a podcast. Which podcast was it? Oh, I was actually when I was on Pot of Thunder. And I recorded my Pot of Thunder, went upstairs. I worked the next day, didn't come into the basement. Then the next morning, maybe 36 hours later, I come into the basement. As soon as I opened the door, I was like, whoa, what is going on down here? And I came downstairs and found 4 deposits that had been made by the dog. Over the course of that amount of time, the kids must have left the door to the basement open. I don't know what happened, but one of them was directly in front of my studio desk, just stinking. Luckily, they were all like rock solid, didn't leave a mark on the carpet. I just sprayed them with some stuff and now it smells like roses down here. But I guess she discovered the downstairs and thought this nice, beautiful carpeted basement would be a great place to just lay some turds all over the place. So
was he trying to give you that barnyard Renaissance fair feel?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it probably smelled way better than anybody in the Renaissance would have smelled.
John paid the dog to pollute the basement so we would never get to this episode.
He wanted to get out of this episode.
Yeah, don't tell nobody nothing.
You FaceTime my kids. Hey, make sure you leave the door to the basement open.
75%.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Dog Poop Studios. Here we go. All right. So who wants to talk about this rite of passage for a Deep Purple fan, finding out about this project and how it came about and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I don't want to get in John's way, but because because I could just see he's bursting at the seams to speak. The buttons are about to pop off his shirt as we speak. I don't exactly remember when I found out this was happening. I mean, it must have been some point after Stranger in Us All, but I don't remember specifically hearing about it. I remember thinking it kind of made sense, because even if you think back to, Ritchie said it was in later Deep Purple days, but even if you go back to the late 60s, when you hear him doing solos live, you hear little inflections of him playing, the old style finger picking music. And I think it's always been there for him. I think it's got to be nice to attack music from a different perspective. I mean, if I am playing drums and I come up with a song idea versus playing a piano or playing my bass, it's always different, because you're coming from it from a completely different angle. So for him to be able to play it on a guitar or an acoustic or a 12 string or a lute or any of these other various things that he's playing, it probably keeps the writing part somewhat fresher for him, which would make it a little bit more exciting. Plus, you're dealing with different sounds and layerings and all that kind of stuff. But I also feel in some of the songs that there's still that rock influence, that verse, chorus, typical 4/4 rock setup. But I was like, okay, well, I mean, he's certainly earned the right to do whatever he wants to do. We really don't have the right to demand or ask anything more of the guy than what he's already given us. So if that one, what makes him happy, do it.
All right. Rich, what's your history with Blackmore's Night?
Yeah, kind of like Scott. I don't really remember specifically. I mean, going back, you always heard Richie talking about, oh, he was working on the cello, and I honestly I thought that's more what it was going to be, like him playing the cello, or even further than this album goes. This album is actually, borderline even being real Renaissance. It's not real Renaissance music; it's pseudo, but and just taking from like the last few things he did with Deep Purple and Stranger in Us All, there were little hints of it getting more and more Anya. The acoustic at the beginning of that kind of was leaning that way. And some of the things on Stranger in Us All, didn't love Stranger in Us All. I probably like it more now than I did at the time. And I remember just feeling like embarrassed is a strong word, but a little bit like to play that for my musician friends, because it's a little like, the German, pump your fist kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of cheesy, especially compared when Perpendicular came out. I was just like, yeah, see, this is what, moving forward sounds like. That he's going in a completely different direction, I guess I was sort of happy, because it's like, at least there's no comparison to be made. Just go do what makes you happy. And you can hear that it makes him happy. And obviously we'll discuss the songs as we go, but I didn't love it. I liked some of it, didn't like other parts of it. But as more albums came out, there's some stuff I really, really like on a few of the other albums. And live, they deliver live.
Yeah, and you've seen them pretty recently.
Yeah, seen them a bunch of times, actually more times than I thought I had. But my wife enjoys it and I enjoy it. So it's still Ritchie Blackmore. Still him playing guitar.
Yeah.
Do they do
John, what do
any meet and greets after the show?
No. I mean,
I
I'm sure if
don't
you
think
hung out by
Ritchie
the
does
back
that.
door or something, you could probably ambush them or whatever. But yeah, no, they're not doing the money. They're not doing the money grab thing, where you can pay to meet them. But I will say also live, and I guess that's any band. The longer you're together, the better you get. Not even speaking about the other musicians, because they really don't matter. But their relationship, Candace, they're like a comedy team now, man. I mean, I just
Yeah.
enjoy because they're hysterical on stage,
Yeah.
like going back and forth, husband and wife stuff. It just makes me laugh. Um, and in the beginning, it wasn't so much that. She'd be more of like a storyteller, like she's reading. It's like a little kid. She had like this very sing-songy voice, and in between she'd be like, "Now we're going to do a song from a long time ago, from a magical band called Rainbow." And you're like, oh God, come on. Like, I'm not sure my eyes are ever going to unroll from the back of my head, but she's gotten away from that now, and it's much more, it's much more husband and wifey battle. It's actually very fun. And I think that we talked about it. I don't know if it was on one of the shows or not, but I really think people don't get Blackmore at all. Like, no wonder everyone thinks he's such a jerk. He isn't. He's screwing with you. He's bored, and he just constantly is trying to create a situation that entertains him. So he just, will cause chaos because it's fun for him to watch people scramble around. So the last time I saw him, he was just picking random songs and like pretending he didn't remember what song was next. He'd pick up one guitar, put down another one. I actually heard somebody like, "Oh, I think he's getting senile." No, he's messing with the band. He's messing with you. Like, are you really that dumb? Like, but anyway, so as I said, we'll discuss it on the songs, but it didn't really have a major impact on me at the time. It just sort of it happened, and I was like, okay. But I was so wrapped up in Perpendicular and Abandon and so, at the time, and that was right as I was getting to first meet the band and everything, and so that obviously I was team Purple more than I was team Blackmore's Night.
All right, John, what do you remember about this time?
You ever hear that Chris Rock grand opening, grand closing? That was pretty much it. I put on one song and I'm like, nope, and that was pretty much it. So yeah, I don't even know if I own I must own the CD. At least I like either that or I don't know how I've heard. Yeah, I might have heard your copy, or I don't know if you or Paul had it or something. I heard it somehow, but I just wasn't, it was not my cup of tea. So I just didn't explore any further. So I don't know anything.
It wasn't your flagon of mead.
Nope. I just this kind of thing just doesn't really do it for me. Like there are just some genres of music that just turn me off. They just don't and I mean, regardless of whether it's Ritchie or anybody, it's just like it's just not really enjoyable to me. So maybe I'll be wrong. When I hear some stuff in there, because like Rich said, it's still Ritchie. Or Scott, somebody said it, it's still Ritchie doing his thing. So it's just like, there's got to be some of them in there. I mean, just like our episode, a few episodes ago, when we heard him doing his really, really early session work, there are little bits and pieces in there of like who he is. So I'm sure that it's, in here somewhere. So we'll see. But I kind of checked out after the Stranger in Us All tour, where he almost blew my eardrums out live. That's about it.
Well, for me, I didn't really give them a chance. I just hadn't started listening to them yet. And then when Winter Carols came out, I'm like, I love Christmas music. This is a perfect opportunity for me and I love that album. I absolutely love that album. And that really opened me up to, okay, maybe there is something in here for me. I'm not a big fan of the Renaissance period, so that time frame doesn't excite me very much.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I've got a couple of their albums. I don't have this one. I haven't heard this one yet. So this is going to be a first time listen for me. But
really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I might know a couple songs off of it, but I haven't heard the whole album. But the stuff I have, like Nature's Light and a couple of the EPs, I absolutely adore. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this.
Cool. Yeah,
it'll be my first time in many years.
Yeah, same here.
I've actually kind of heard Winter's Carols too, Scott, because I was thinking about that when kind of exploring Christmas music, and I saw they had an album, and I'm thinking, well, maybe in this context, I'll like Blackmore's Night, and I really still didn't.
but you gave it a chance, I like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think of as when we were talking about Christmas albums, maybe on the Christmas episode, or we're discussing Hughes's Christmas album, it's like they could be pretty hit or miss especially if you're doing cover songs, because it's really an easy and cheap way to throw something out there, and if it sticks, it could be a huge hit, and if it doesn't, then it's just another Christmas album.
Right.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie. So, when you have a time machine, you have a list of things that you'd like to go back.
Yeah.
I would like to go back to the moment that Frosted Tips Matola first heard Blackmore's Night.
No, he wasn't Frosted Tips yet at that point. No, that was a few years later. But a few years before Frosted Tips, I picked up this copy. Me and John were at Sam's
Yeah.
in Warwick together, and I had heard like Ritchie's doing this Renaissance music, and you're like, you just didn't know at that point, like what's true, what's a rumor. And then I saw this album and I was like, I have to. And I remember like we probably had made a few jokes about it. Oh, he's doing Renaissance music. This is crazy. So I saw this album. This is a Japanese import at that point. I think it was the summer, and this came out in April. So it would have been pretty new at that point. And I've got the little Japanese booklet that came with it here. So I put it on, and I put, it was definitely something very different. We were doing a lot of recording and music writing and stuff at the time. And I remember putting it on and listening to it and thinking, this is, such a different, not what I would have expected from Rich. I was expecting it more to be in that, the way he gets medieval in a Rainbow Song sort of thing, not actually going straight back to like using those instruments and things. So it was definitely interesting, but I listened to it a few times, but there was so much other stuff going on at the time that I didn't get too much more into it. But there's definitely parts of it that I remember very well that I think of fondly. But overall, yeah, I would say the album was a mixed bag for me for sure. And it's got 16 tracks. It's a very long album. So I just saw John, which is why we're doing it in 2 parts.
Oh, thank God.
Some of them are short, and some of them are instrumental and
good.
all that sort of stuff. But yeah. And this is the Japanese version, so it's got the bonus track at the end. Yeah, so it was definitely an interesting time. I was getting into a lot of new music then, and just I was exploring things I had listened to before that I didn't give enough of a chance, and getting back into music I'd gotten into before, listening to new music. So I was just kind of open to buying whatever was out there, and I was working at a job where I had way more disposable income than I needed. So it was just, anytime we could go to the record store, I'd just pick up whatever I could to listen to. So I'm interested to see how it goes. And we've the whole idea behind doing this, we've never had 4 people on a panel before to rate an album. But I think the idea was we wanted to have a broad range of perspectives. Those, who listen to the show know John's probably not going to be his cup of tea. And for me, I might be more in the neutral end. And then Scott and Rich, with their history of it, might be a little bit more into some of the stuff on the album. So we wanted to kind of get a wider range of opinions, but we're not here to trash anything or just praise it all together. We want to really kind of listen to it. It sounds like most of us are going to be listening to it for first time or third time or fifth time or eighth time, whatever it might be. So it gets some different perspectives. So some quick lead up to the album. After leaving Deep Purple, Ritchie referred to Deep Purple as the monster machine. And he said his kind of idea was, oh, well, I'll just get Rainbow back together. But he says it was kind of an easy get out to say, well, I'm just going to go back to Rainbow because that's what I did last time, and kind of discovered pretty quickly that his heart wasn't really in it being in Rainbow again. He was working at Longview Farm on the album, and he's going to fly in a professional lyric writer for the album. But he called Candace, who was, I guess, on Long Island at that point, and they were in Connecticut. And he said, or maybe it was New York, I'm not sure. Oh, no, it was Massachusetts, I think. But she took the ferry across, and he said, hey, like, why don't you try writing some lyrics and we'll see what we got. And she said she put down all these verses and got there and gave Ritchie and Pat Regan, the producer, all the lyrics, and Pat Regan just like circled this one, that one. Okay, we got verse and a chorus for a song. Ritchie and Candace had started writing these acoustic songs together, but they played them mostly together at home and had no intention on releasing any of them. Some of them were covers, some of them were originals they had written. But he said he was starting to really enjoy that because there was just no pressure. The pressure of being in a rock band, being on tour, all managers and expectations for album releases. He said all that pressure was off and he was just really having a fun time. He said he was doing these products, and when he was doing this project, he was putting together melodies that were similar to what he would do with Rainbow, but without it being hard rock, and that he felt like he had a lot of faith that the fans would follow him. And while I'm sure a lot did, some didn't. Somewhat, people are always upset when artists change and do something different, and they obviously accumulated a lot of new fans in the process as well. So Ritchie said he saw a band in a German castle playing Renaissance music with authentic instruments, and he was watching it. He said, "This is it. This is what I want to do." And he said there was this fantastic underground world of Renaissance music. And he said he wanted to do that because playing in front of these large rock crowds was not very meaningful to him. Candace said she never had any real intention of being the singer or being a singer in this project. She was just kind of sang like in a closet way. She's kind of like Rich talked about earlier, she was kind of shy on stage, and she's really come into her own recently. But Ritchie kind of said he liked her voice and he wanted her to perform with them. So he asked her when he first met her, he asked her what she could do, and he kind of like has this he's a prankster. His pranks now are a little more tame, but he would have this kind of thing when people came by the house, he'd ask them what they could do, and you kind of have to perform for him, whether it's sing a song or play an instrument or juggle or whatever. He asked her what she could do, and she said she could sing, and he got her to sing, and that's when he really discovered he really liked her voice. Ritchie says in an interview, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people doing what we do. There's probably a good reason for that. Yeah, that's kind of the lead up to the album. The album, core band on the album, really everybody on this doesn't really have any other credits beyond Blackmore's Night in this album. Tom Brown is on cello, recorder, trumpet, and French horn, or Gerald Flashman. Viola and violin is credited to Lady Green. And then Ritchie plays a lot of stuff. He plays electric guitar, acoustic guitar, bass, mandolin, drum, and tambourine. Pat Regan does some of the keyboards. And then, of course, Candace Knight does vocals. Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull plays on one song. And Scott Hazel, who I cannot find any information about, does backing vocals on Play Minstrel Play. Although I did find him on, I think I did find him on, I think I found him on Facebook. I think he was Ritchie's guitar tech. I think he must have been during Rainbow. So again, produced by Pat Regan and Ritchie Blackmore. And Pat Regan, for those of you forget, he was a producer that worked with Kiss, Quiet Riot, Weird Al, of course, and he was the producer on Stranger in Us All. And with that, we get to what we were talking about earlier. I think it was before the call, but that is, let's see if I can find it here, the album cover.
While you're looking for that, I have to wonder how the process worked to completely change to a genre of music that isn't mainstream. Like, how do you figure out what your budget is going to be, what your expected sales are going to be? That really must have been a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult because if this was a band that was kind of growing up organically and starting to develop a fan base or whatever, but yeah, you don't really know, right? Who's going to, of the Ritchie Blackmore fans, the Deep Purple fans, the Rainbow fans, who's going to come over to this new band? How many new people are there going to be? And obviously you're going to get a lot more attention than you would get if it was the same band without Ritchie Blackmore in it.
Right. But I mean, how do you even figure out, okay, here's our budget to make the record? Because other than saying, well, I think, if I say we'll get 5% of Perfect Strangers initial sales just based on the fact that Ritchie Blackmore's in the band, and you got to have some kind of starting point to be able to say we can afford to do this.
Yeah. Well, I think based on the project, I think they were just like, whatever, who cares? Well,
yeah, could be.
We'll just do whatever we want to do. We're not going to make so much that we're so many copies that we're going to lose money, but I think they just wanted to do something different. All right. So here's the album cover. I think most people listening probably are fairly familiar with it. But what do you guys think of this album cover?
Bland.
It reminds me of okay.
It's just not vibrant. It's very mint green, which I like, but it's just kind of like a colored pencil drawing. And yeah, it's just not the vibrant colors. It doesn't stand out the way I would expect it to.
Well, it's because it's a shadow of a moon.
That's true.
No, it reminds me of something you would see on the wall at a high school.
Yep.
When they put up all the art projects that the students have done.
I was thinking the same thing.
Looks like, and it's well done. I mean, it would have been one of the better students, but that's what it screams to me is, or some girl doodling it on her notebook at school or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. It just it doesn't do much for me. I mean, Ritchie looks good on it. The drawing of him is pretty good and not bad at Candace. And if they just done something different with it, maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
you've got the 25th anniversary version behind you, and they did some kind of more color with it, and it
Yeah,
brightens it up a bit.
yeah, I like it. I like it much better for sure.
I was thinking the same thing that Rich was, is that it looked like a high school art project or like a paint by numbers type of thing. Like, oh, let me shade that in, and then the more I look at it, what was the girl over on the left? Was she like holding a machine gun or something? What is that?
It's a guitar.
Looks like she's holding a freaking like an Uzi or something.
A Tommy gun. Hey, Blackmore, you owe me some money, see?
You guys know, I just noticed it, the electric leaning against the tree,
Yeah.
Yeah.
his Strat, which is
It's like he
where,
left
where
his
it stays
Strat
for most of the
behind
album.
Yep.
Yeah, but it does seem pretty underwhelming. Seems like really goes along the theme of kind of cheap looking album covers.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like it. I like the what they were going for with it. And
Well, yeah, the concept isn't bad. I mean, I agree with that Candace and Ritchie are illustrated quite well. I mean, it looks like them.
It looks like Candace's frock is on fire, though.
I'm a little worried about that bird too. That bird's gonna get some toasted wings.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the album cover. Album cover was done by Johanna Peterman. Also did the artwork for Ghost of a Rose album cover by Blackmore's Night, but I couldn't find many other credits from her. And then the photography inside is by Michael Keel, who's mostly associated with Blackmore Night albums as well. So there's kind of this theme of I think doing what they're doing is kind of they're a little more insulated and not working so much with mainstream folks. They've got people who don't have a ton of credits and everything doing that, like you said, trying to maybe in trying to figure out the budget for this album, they thought, well, this is kind of a one-off thing. We'll just get some friends we know, everyone to do stuff. Maybe the photos were done just by a friend who wasn't looking for any money or anything, or they paid just very little. And just trying to keep it really in the family and not make a big deal about it, not put a ton of marketing behind it. But yeah, that's it. You've got the lyric sheets inside the album, which kind of had like the medieval tapestries behind them, which are kind of cool. Like they should probably almost be like shaded down a little bit. It's a little hard to read some of the lyrics over them. Then you've got this photo of Ritchie and Candace. And then you've got the full length kind of with candles in the foreground, and it looks like that same tapestry in the background. I just noticed the tapestry you were seeing in the background of the lyrics. And then you got the CD here, which is a close-up of the castle in the background, and then the back cover, which is for some reason what I remember the most when I think of this album is looking at it in the record store and seeing this background. Like they're just walking along the side of some river, and Ritchie slung his guitar over his shoulder, and she's got a walking stick, and they're on their way to the Renaissance Fair.
I don't know. I feel like this or one of the other photographs, or even if they created the album cover with a photograph instead of illustrating it, would have been a better album cover.
Yeah, like
Like
swapping the
exact
back
same
cover and the
thing.
front cover or something.
Yeah, like I think that would have been a cool album cover instead of, because I mean it's pretty much those are the star players right there. I think that would have been cool. Or instead of walking during the day, that photo shoot like at Ritchie's favorite time of day, dusk. I think would have been really moody, kind of cool.
And the lights are most effective then.
Yes.
Sorry, that was a California Jam reference to build on yours.
Yes.
And how did that work out?
My joke, not well.
No, I meant the California Jam.
For the cameraman, also not well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they light, Candace's frock on fire, then pretty much the same as Ritchie's amps. So
Yeah, probably less explosive though. If they don't put
I just
TNT
wonder
in it.
in all the gigs that they've done with Blackmore's Night, if he's ever smashed a 12-string on stage.
that would be
Not
interesting.
impossible. Not impossible. So anyway, that's the That's the album art for you. And before we get into the actual tracks, we have to do something, which is to thank our, oops, what did I do there? Shared the wrong thing. We have to thank our core level patrons, and coming in at the $7.77 Keep It Warm Rat tier, we have Michael Vader. At the $6.99 new nice price tier, we have Spike the Rock Cat and Sugar Tea. Coming in at the episode $6.66 tier, Steve Coldwell, Arthur Smith, and Anton Glaving. At the $6.65 Almost Evil tier, Kenny Wymore. At the $5.99 the nice price tier, Robert Smith, Peter from Illinois, Michael Bagford, and Carl Hellberg. At the 60 kroner Scandinavian Nights tier, we have Zwapper the Electric Alchemist and Newt Morton Johansson. At the $5.55 What's Going On Here tier, we have Richard Fusey. And at the $5 Moneylender tier, John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Alman, Alexei, The Perfect Stranger Slepikov, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Kev Roberts, Percival Frequency, Scott Zerns, Cynthia Doobie, and Raf Calf. Thank you so much to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast.
My man Raf, give him a shout out. See
Man
him on
Raf.
Discord all the time.
Yep, it's good. He's a good man.
Hey, the one every time you guys say Glaving, that one.
Yep.
All I can think of is the professor from The Simpsons.
Glaving.
Glaving.
Oh, Professor Frank. Yeah.
Maybe this is a good. So me and John have been saying that for years off air.
Yeah.
But I was like, I've never reached out to Anton and been like, can we go Glaving? Let us know. Send us a note.
I guess we'll find out. He'll either say yes or stop it.
But it's funny you mentioned that because we've been doing our Jerry Lewis impressions for. I've been fighting it off since day one, but I'm ready to break it out.
Boy, with the punching and the kicking.
And I love Kenny Wymore's Almost Evil tier. I've always loved that because he's one of the nicest people I've ever met and probably the farthest thing from evil. So I always find that ironic and enjoyable.
Have you actually met him in person?
Not in person, no.
Oh, okay. No, but he is a great guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I never know. You're at the crossroads of the world there in Las Vegas. You meet all kinds of people. You met Rich. You've met everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the great things about living here is that people come and visit. Now, whether we actually end up getting together when they get here, because a lot of times what happens is, well, I'm just trying to figure out when we can do it. And I'm waiting for my friends. And, before you know it, they're on their way back home. So a lot of people come out here and I don't get to see them, but it's nice because a lot of bands come here that don't necessarily stop in other cities and get to see people I wouldn't normally see. So yeah, there's some advantages to living here in Vegas.
I think you'd be the primary attraction if I was there. Not so into the gambling and stuff. So I feel like
I'll take you on a tour.
What do you want to go to do in Vegas? I don't know. See Scott Haskin, I guess.
I'll take you. I'll take you on a
Hoover
tour.
Dam and Scott Haskin. That's all you need to see.
Yeah, Scott Haskin. Where's he playing?
Yeah, forget the Pornography Heritage Museum and all the other things we have.
People will probably play it off cool, like they're supposed to know, like, oh yes, you're going to see Scott Haskin, awesome, and they Google like, who is this guy? Oh, it's a guy with a podcast. Okay,
Right.
Thought he was like a big entertainer.
Right.
I thought he was doing a residency at the Bellagio.
Yeah, what do you mean he is?
Yeah, thank you.
He
Thank
is
you.
a big entertainer. A residency at the Bellagio.
7. I counted it recently between the Haskin Cast podcast and Uriah Heep the Magician's podcast. 722 episodes so far.
Woo!
Wow.
723 with this one.
Well, that's not all the guests.
That's
That's
not even
just,
your guest spots.
just those
Forget about
two.
that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Just those two.
Wow, I only got
Yeah.
719 to go.
Every
Oh,
day you're
boy.
one closer, Rich.
All right. It's a moment of truth is upon us. It is time to listen to the first track, which is Shadow of the Moon.
Actually, Nate,
Uh-oh.
before we do that, can I suggest that we play a game
Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Yes.
called If You Were at Richie's House and You Had to Audition for Him, What Would Your Audition Be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I was actually thinking that when I was reading the interview where I think it was Candace that was saying it. I don't know. I think I'd be like I'd feel too intimidated to play like an instrument in front of him. I don't think he'd be sitting there like, "Oh, you suck." I mean, he might be thinking it, but he probably wouldn't. But I don't know. I can't juggle. I can't dance. But I mean, I guess I would have to play some sort of instrument because what the heck else can I do?
Right.
I could just do a 2-hour podcast in front of him.
There you go. On bouffant hairstyles.
I'll make him regret his demand. What would you guys do?
I'd probably shake a
I-
tambourine. That's the only thing that I can. That's it.
I would sing "Oh Canada." I would practice cuffing techniques on Candace.
I would probably sing something off "Come Taste the Band." No, I'd like to think I would do something intelligent, but I'm sure it would probably come out looking like Stewart on Mad TV. So I'd probably just play some kind of rhythm or something for him. I think that's probably my wheelhouse.
Yeah. See if he has a spare tabla laying around or something.
Or I just look at him and go, look, I've already paid for at least 2 or 3 of these lanterns on your pathway here. So I kind of think I'm past the audition part.
I'd work on a prank with him. I bet he and I could come up with something true.
Oh yeah, the two of you together would be bad news.
It's actually a good idea.
I don't know if you could top what he did to Tony Ashton. I think that you're well, and it turned out it didn't actually happen to Tony Ashton, but that's who he had set up. If you could beat that prank, you're gold.
What was that one?
That's the one where they hollowed out the floor underneath the bed and put a speaker in it.
Oh yeah,
and did the haunted ghost sound.
Didn't he do it to Glenn Hughes
That's
or
low
something?
hanging fruit.
I don't
think
know if he did it to Glenn,
if
but
Rich
I
got
know
there, if Rich got there before we did, I just wouldn't go because he'd come up with something. I'd be like, I'm not. I don't want to be any part of this.
probably so.
All right, so here we go, John. They've put it off long enough. Here we go. The opening track of Shadow of the Moon, the titular Shadow of the Moon. Is that like a harpsichord? Or,
I'm thinking it was a
one of
sitar.
those- They that's more percussive. It's like what do they call it? Like a
Hammer dulcimer.
dulcimer. Thank you.
That's the one thing is I don't know that much about the instruments.
Dulcimer's not listed in the thing, but that's got to be it. And this one is an original by Blackmore and Knight.
It's mixed really nicely.
You
Yeah,
can tell
nice
it's Ritchie
crystal
on
clear
guitar.
production.
In the shadow of the moon, she danced in the starlight, whispering a haunting tune to the night.
And I feel like listening to this, I could see it not being difficult to turn this into a rainbow song. You know, up the tempo a little bit, switch to electric instruments, but like melodically and just kind of what they're going for.
Or Jolene Turner in there.
Yeah, just a little JLT action.
But honestly, it's not too far off of something like Rainbow Eyes or something like that.
Yeah.
You just different lyrics, different, obviously Ronnie singing it.
Yeah, I could hear it Ronnie more than JLT because I'm just not picturing Legs Over Easy in this song.
No, I can.
Tights over easy.
Of course you can. It's over easy.
I hope she never listens to this podcast.
No, she'll just repost it, but change some of the punctuation.
Knock
Hey-o.
on my door with a restraining order.
Well, the great thing is, Rich, you could tell her how to file it.
Ooh, that was a good joke, John. I'm sorry. It took a second to land on my... That was good.
I was like, oh well, I tried. I don't know how dynamic I'm going to be on this episode, so
Oh,
I'll
we,
get him
we
when
love
I
you,
can.
Candace. We're just a couple of knuckleheads who have fun and listen to anything related to Deep Purple. So
I will say I have talked to Candace several times over the last few years, and she's always been very, very sweet and pleasant. I've been on a couple of her live Instagram feeds while she's been out
nice.
out and about. Really, really sweet person. I've really enjoyed our conversations.
Her when she does an interview with her and Richie, it's like Rich said earlier, it's like a comedy show. It's so funny. It's the way they interact with each other, and so interesting. She comes across as like such a nice, sweet person that is like obviously has like loves Richie, but like is also like has to reel him in and deal with what is, you know, his temperament, like not temperament, but the way he's joking with people that may not be getting the jokes. So she's like a really good go-between, and yeah, I really have a lot of respect for her.
Well,
Sounds
I
a
don't
lot
know.
like my wife.
She's dealing with the same thing your wife is dealing with.
John's seen it in action.
I have.
I remember when they did their live cast shortly after COVID started, they were sitting on their staircase, and I don't know how she does it, where she's reading the chat and she's also singing, and then they're picking out songs. I mean, it's just amazing because I'm watching the chat and I can't keep up with it, and I'm just sitting there watching it. But I remember
Haagen-Dazs.
But she offered to get Richie a beer, and then he's like, no, I'll get it. She's like, no, I'll get it. And I couldn't tell if they were having an argument or if it was a bit. Like she's really sick and tired of waiting on him hand and foot, or if that was comedy. I just couldn't tell.
No, it's always a thin line between husband and wife, in comedy and fight.
And murder, yeah.
And murder.
So Scott, when you've spoken to her, has she ever mentioned me, or?
I think she's kind of afraid to let that cat out of the bag. You know, she's like, she wants to keep you for herself.
Yeah, it's probably best that way.
Yeah. That last little progression that we heard at the beginning in the background, it sounds smooth like strings, but I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it almost has a bit of a Western feel to it. Like it would be played on a slide guitar if the song were in that style. And I could hear like some really low male voices like you hear in some of the old like Western plain songs that could really work with that style too.
Like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like there's also this part where it's like where it sounds like it's a strummed, distorted electric, like off in the background, but it works really well.
It's whatever it is, it's layered very nicely.
I thought the male voice was more like monks. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing.
Like a more of a Gregorian
Druids
chant.
or
Yeah.
All right, so who wants to kick off the rankings?
John.
No, Rich has spoken. Everybody wants to know.
All right, set the bar, John.
That's the bar, John.
All right, let me
I might have to fiddle around with the spreadsheet to accommodate for the new guests, so I might make some changes while we're working on it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
Extra
I can't.
fumbling may be necessary.
Yeah, I can't.
That won't mess them up.
Oh, there we go.
Is this really the first time it's been a four-person panel for a review show?
for a review?
For a
I think
review,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, for a
Wow.
review. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give this one a 2.
All right.
That's pretty much. It's not bad. I don't find it objectionable. I mean, it's not interesting, you know, to me. Like what I hear is just like, I feel like all the Blackmore's Night stuff that I've heard sounds like it has this sound to it. And I mean, I feel like it's well produced. Like it's not recorded badly. It's just, it sounds like this kind of soundtrack that you hear when you walk into like, you're like in Salem or something like that. And you go into one of these shops that has like crystals and wind chimes and shit. And the CD is on in the background. And it's just this kind of nondescript music that, you know, is playing in the background like that. And it's just like, ooh, witchcraft or something. And it's like, I don't know.
I think that no, I don't think that's a mistake, you know.
That's exactly the kind of music that they play.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what they were trying to achieve.
Exactly. And that's just not appealing to me. But that being said, it doesn't stink. It's just like, I don't like it. I don't like it as in terms of it's just not interesting.
Do you think
So
that's the style of the genre though, that it's just kind of got that mellow sound to it, a little bit of just that sort of gentle swaying, almost sung by a fairy princess type vocal, and
yeah,
just like a lot of picking and stuff in the background? I kind of think that's what Renaissance music is.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it appeals to a lot of people, but you know, for like John's particular taste, that's you know, that's not what he's usually looking for. And
Right.
Well,
And
it's the
stuff
same
that
way
they
that
do
like I'm trying to think of just another genre is like country music is just not appealing to me. I mean most types. I mean, I haven't heard like maybe the hardcore classic country, maybe more like pop country. I
Mhm.
guess you could say all just kind of, it has that kind of sound or that feel to it that just isn't appealing to me, so I don't listen to it.
Mhm. Well, maybe
So,
one day when Renaissance music crosses with pop like country did, it'll be a little bit better.
Maybe.
I think that would be even worse for John. All right, Scott, Rich.
I was just gonna say that the stuff that they do that varies from this part, the like you were just saying, the picking guitar and the fairy tale voice is the stuff I like better. This stuff it's okay, but it all just sort of blends together. I did like hearing Richie play those little flourishes during the lines. I mean, they're simple enough, but that's the stuff I like when Richie does, plays even with Deep Purple or whoever else. So I liked that part of it, and I remember thinking that when I heard this song, that like, oh wow, it's good to hear him play that kind of stuff. But I was really hoping for a guitar solo in the middle, which obviously we didn't get, because it went past 2 minutes 30 seconds without us hearing it. Or what is it? Is it 2 minutes 3 or is it 3:30? But anyway,
Somewhere around there.
I would give this. Um, I'm on the fence, and this is the first time I'm giving a rating or being allowed to give a rating. And after all the crap I've given you guys, I have to do this very carefully.
Oh boy, it's gonna come back to bite you.
I know it is. It is. I'm gonna go 2.5 because that is average.
Mhm.
That is exactly average. Just it's fine. It's a fine song. I would rather listen to that than a lot of other stuff from any rap song any day of the week, most country, any opera, but yeah, not a lot off the rest of the Deep Purple catalog.
You might want to mark this time down because at some point you're going to get a complaint email from Rich about his own rating. I'll give it a 3. I think it's got a really nice warm tone to it. I think it really exemplifies what this kind of music is. Really gentle and just kind of swaying in the breeze. I don't think it's necessarily music that's really meant for you to just sit down and focus on it as much as it is to be more of an atmosphere to create, the mood. John, you mentioned like walking into a crystal shop. I interviewed a band from Canada called Mythos, and they're considered kind of new age world beat kind of band, and something I love. But I first heard them walking into a new age store. They used to have these displays where they would have maybe 16 albums, and you would just pick which one you wanted to hear, and you could get a sample of it to decide if you wanted to buy the CD for sale there. This is exactly the kind of music that they would have had. Exactly. So you hit it directly on the head. But I like this. I love the gentleness in Candace's voice. I love the way she sings. I think the music was nice and warm. I could hear so much potential and so many different things you could do with it. But for what it is, yeah, I think it's pretty good. I'll go with 3.
All right. Well, hold on to your 4-cornered hats or 3-cornered hats, but I'm gonna give this one a 4.
Wow.
And I've always just really, and going to what Rich said earlier, I tend to gravitate towards the things that where they stray a little bit from that Renaissance thing, and I personally view this song as being one of them. This is the first thing I ever heard by Blackmore's Night, like probably many people. The first song I ever heard by them, and I remember hearing this song and thinking, wow, this is going to be a really, really cool album, because I really dug what they were doing with the song. So yeah, that's what I'm going with it. I really do like this song a lot.
Nice.
I like the melody. I like the, Ritchie's kind of playing in the background where, like you said, there's no solo, but he's throwing in all these, he's kind of sort of soloing throughout the whole song, but not in a flashy way. Just kind of it works, blends really well with the music that way.
And honestly, especially in their later stuff, that kind of is Ritchie's style now, where he just kind of solos through everything now.
Yep. Why not?
Yeah.
He's got a band behind him playing all the stuff, and he can just kind of do whatever he wants. And
Mhm.
all the great, that's what BB King did. He wasn't sitting there playing chords. That's where
Yeah.
I can pay somebody to do that. I'm gonna play solos with this entire time sitting down, and then for the last song, I'm gonna get up and the crowd's gonna go wild. I'm gonna walk around a little bit, and I mean, why?
Mhm. There
Why
you
not?
go.
Having not heard this for quite some time, I can now say that her voice has gotten exponentially better.
Mhm.
That it's
I think stronger too. Like
well, that's
she
it.
was
Stronger. I mean, it's very kind of quiet and wispy on this.
Mhm.
She has more power. I'm sure that comes with the confidence too, and just
Yeah.
singing more. And it's like any muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. But um, and you'll hear it, I guess, and then when we do the rest of the 15 albums. But yeah,
by 2050 when we finish that.
she definitely has gotten better. Better is the only term I can use. I mean, it's because it's stronger. It's because it's not that this is bad. I think it comes across better.
Yeah, it's like comparing Ritchie's playing on the tracks we were listening to a few weeks ago versus, say, in rock. It's like,
Yeah, good point.
She got
Yeah.
more confident, and she's always had this very soft and like angelic sounding voice. But yeah,
Mhm.
she gets like a little, like, I think it's all in the confidence too, just not, this is probably the first time she was in a recording studio recording anything. Well, she did a little bit with Rainbow and stuff. She did some stage stuff, but it was like background. So this was like her first like major, like, I'm the focal point of the song. So that's got to be intimidating to be doing that, even if he's your boyfriend or fiance or whatever they were at that point. To be doing it with such a legend like this, it's got to be fairly intimidating. So give her a lot
Well,
of
and
credit for
knowing
that.
that a lot of people are going to hear you in your performance just because of who you're recording with, it's going to get X amount of attention.
Yeah.
But I
And-
think you'll find if you sing the American national anthem, you'll get the confidence to sing the Canadian one.
yes, that's all the time you'll need.
That's right.
But you also just have to give somebody like her credit, whether think of people like her, Steve Morse, Graham Bonnet, go down the list of Tommy Bolin, anybody replacing somebody in their eyes or doing something with someone creatively that's not known for that. It takes a lot of guts, and you're going to get so much shit. I mean, it would be 10 times worse if this album came out this year with the way that social media is and all this toxicity and people and fans just being so mean and cruel. Like, look at what poor Ronnie Romero had to deal with, just because whatever, people just wanted to shit on him for whatever reason. It's one thing to not like something, but the degrees and the lengths that people go to voice that is tough. And it takes a lot of courage to do that, put yourself out there.
Would we have still been on dial-up internet when this came out?
Probably, yeah, I would have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, thinking about the
definitely
time
was.
frame, yeah, for sure, it would be a whole different thing if this started today.
I didn't even have a cell phone.
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
Yeah.
I think
No,
I
I
had
didn't
one
have
until like
beeper.
2000.
Yeah, I had my pager, called myself a lot. I had to check it and make sure it worked because no one else was calling me.
All right, so let's hit the next track. The next song is called "The Clock Ticks On." This is composed by, and I'm definitely probably not going to get this right, Tileman Susato, a Renaissance composer. They're old when they don't even know exactly when they were born. Sometime between 1510 and 1515, composed this song. So here we go. This is "The Clock Ticks On." That sounds like John's intro. Look at John.
Oh my God, it sounds like the friggin' Princess Bride.
Yeah, it does, right?
Boy, this really sounds like proper English. you know, like if you were to go to a castle and you're pulling up in your carriage, this would be what the people outside would be playing to welcome you in.
Your Princess Buttercup.
And just for the record, I love that movie.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
So I don't know
Never
why I
seen
don't
it.
like the music. I don't know.
Well, I think it's about context too. You know, I
Yeah.
actually listened to the Princess Bride soundtrack a lot.
I
had
feel
the
like
soundtrack.
yeah, we should watch it, Rich. I think you'd like it.
I have not seen that in years.
I could be way off though. It's one of those where it's like you'll either really like it or you won't, and I'm not sure which one it is.
I can't imagine seeing it for the first time now. You know, but
Oh yeah.
so this one's credited to, like I said, Tileman, Susato, but Blackmore and Knight as well. So Blackmore's going to add his own stuff, and Knight is, I'm assuming, writing the lyrics.
It's kind of hard to imagine this just as an instrumental.
It seems like an odd thing that would have lyrics though from the 1500s,
Yeah.
or at least these lyrics. They'd be using like a bunch of words that don't exist anymore. It'd be like Shakespeare. Like what is?
Well, and it might have needed like some kind of reinterpretation just because of the language.
Yeah. Yep. So Candace said that they have what she calls a Blackmore-izing machine, and they hear an old song and they put them through this machine and it comes out as something different. So I am not familiar with the original arrangement, but
Yeah. Because I don't know how many trills they used to play back in the 1500s, but I've heard Ritchie do at least 5 of them already.
I think the original lyrics were about the Spanish Inquisition.
I love how crystal clear the guitars sound on this recording. I mean, they really did a great job capturing the instruments.
I'm just having fun watching John's arm keep reaching forward like he could hit the skip button, but he can't.
that's why I'm not giving him admin privileges on this episode.
Oh,
Just 13 and a half more songs to go, John.
this one. Oh God, this one actually isn't too bad.
I mean, I think anyone would agree that it's all very well done. It's really just a matter of what's your personal taste. Like, it's not you're
Right.
like, oh my god, they're totally phoning it in with this guitar playing, and
Mhm.
there's nothing to criticize on the musicianship level. It's just,
It comes
Is
down to
this, like,
taste. Yeah.
is this your cup of tea from especially if you're a fan of his hard rock stuff? And for some people,
Right.
it very much is, and for some, it isn't. And there's just some who probably say, I got into him from this. I've checked out Deep Purple. They're okay, but I'd rather listen to this.
Mhm.
The horns at the beginning of this reminded me of the horns. Was it Uncommon Man or
Uncommon Man, yeah.
it does.
right? That bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, it's not it's not it's very similar, the patch that they're using.
Yeah. And I have to say, she really has the look to match this kind of music. Like, she looks like a princess. Every time I've ever seen her, even if she's in just like regular clothes, like she just looks like she walked out of a Disney movie.
Yep. Living the lifestyle.
Well, they do own a castle.
True.
I tried to talk John into hunting them down on the way to Jersey.
I don't think I
Stop
said
by their house,
yes.
knock on the door. Hey,
You did not.
how's it going?
Richie. He's like, I know who you are. You
I'm sure they'd be
bastard."
thrilled with that. That'd be great if.
Yeah,
Like,
hey, from Village Lantern, I'm here to rekindle the lanterns.
Rekindle.
Your regular beeswax guy wasn't available, so I'm here.
Uh,
Oh,
that's
boy.
how you, that's how you know you're an Italian. You just have like a very like niche type of like you know the wicks that you make for those candles. That's my business. That's what I do.
Hey, are you selling wicks on this part of Long Island? You know this
Yeah,
is my
just-
territory.
Not the beeswax, just the wick. Just the wick. That's mine. So I
Sorry,
do that.
Want me to shine your knocker while I'm here?
That's,
Hi-yo.
that is how it was for me working in food service in New Jersey. I can tell you that.
Mhm.
Very a lot of goombas, and you call one of them and they're like, "Oh, that's my cousin, whatever his territory, he'll help you out. I'll give you his number." It's like, really? You can't sell in this area? And then you're like, "Oh, I get it."
It was like Fat Tony on The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's just it's unbelievable. I thought at one point I thought I was gonna get murdered because I was dealing with these trash hauling guys. And
Never
if you
good.
ever seen The Sopranos, but I was on the bottom of this loading dock under a mall in New Jersey, kind of late at night. It's dark under there anyway. And I'm trying to set up a trash hauling for this new business. And these two goombas come out in these like velour tracksuits. Hey, oh, so you want to do? Oh yeah, this loading dock's kind of at a precarious angle. I'm gonna have to get a shorter bed on my truck and da da da. And I'm like, if I like don't agree to these guys' terms, I'm gonna be in that dumpster, and they're never gonna see me. So I was like, what was that? $90,000 a month? Sounds great, guys. Where do I sign?
Yikes.
All right, the clock ticks on. John, you want to kick it off again, or do we want
It ticks on for thee. Me, aka me. This one actually I didn't think it was too bad. I heard some some cool stuff in there. I'll give it a 3.
All right.
Yeah. I thought it was a little different. The vocals sounded a little more natural. There was some guitar parts that I enjoyed by Ritchie in there. I can't really pick them out because it wasn't like part of the chorus or anything like that, but there's just some it was just well produced. I just like the whole album. I picked out some or how I assume the whole album is produced is just picked out some nice work from Ritchie, which I think like if he's doing acoustic through most of this, I mean, we all know what a great acoustic player he is as well, so I'm not surprised.
All right. Rich, Scott.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would have gone with a 4, but I really hated that brassy intro. So because of that, I'm gonna drop it down to a 3.5, but I really enjoyed the rest of the song. If the intro had just gone once, I probably would have been okay with it, but it was kind of dragged out for me. But the rest of the song was fantastic. So yeah, 3.5.
All right, Rich.
I would have absolutely hit the skip button the minute I heard that brass sound. So I never would hear the rest of the song. So, I mean, it was okay. It didn't really do anything for me. But the beginning just took me right out of it. So I would probably give it another 2.5. It was just fine, average.
All right. I will give this one a 3 as well. Definitely share the sentiments with that brass sound. We've talked about the Uncommon Man patch before, and synth horns are tough for me. Very rarely have I heard them done well, and sometimes you find out they were real horns and maybe they just weren't mic'd up well. Who knows? But I mean, you could tell, like, it sounds like that little lead trumpet, or I think it was a trumpet, sounded real, but the stuff behind it didn't. And I just always feel like, if you're in a situation like this, like, why wouldn't you just get, you could probably hire a little 3-piece brass band for $400 to come in and give them some sheet music and do it. It feels like it would be a little more authentic if you did it that way rather than through the keyboards. Or if, it sounds like keyboards, it's like, oh, we put this keyboard here as a placeholder for the demo and we'll later go on to record real horns. So that would be my take.
Yeah.
Okay, next track up is a Candace Knight and Mr. Blackmore original. It's called Be Mine Tonight.
Oh, Rich is swaying over there.
Yeah, if you're just listening to the audio version, Rich definitely understands the swing of a waltz.
Yes.
Her voice layers very nicely too.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like almost like a, well, it doesn't sound like it, but it has like the effect of like being like a keyboard pad.
Right, yeah.
It's like, she doesn't use like vibrato. She's just very, like, if you looked at her vocal singing in like an auto-tune program, it'd just be a straight line. She's so good at keeping it dead on and dead straight.
Yeah, very, very smooth.
Beatles-esque little descending pattern there.
That raises an interesting question. I wonder what the result would be if Paul McCartney and Ritchie Blackmore tried to write a song together.
That was a great solo by Ritchie.
That was a great song.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm just trying to imagine Paul McCartney and Ritchie even being in the same room, never mind writing a song together. You know, it's really cool what you're doing with that guitar.
I don't know if they've ever met.
Yeah, who knows?
We met George Harrison under the name of
That's
what was his name?
Arnold Grove.
Oh, that's right.
Arnold
Yeah.
Grove. Arnold Grove. Ooh.
That's a short song.
That's got that going for it.
That's a really crazy thing you did with that guitar.
Well, I know the song would have a good bass line anyway.
Yeah, I really like the thing you did when you guys did Help. That was really cool. Like, yeah, that was 53 years ago. Thank you. All right, John, what do you think about Me Mine tonight?
You know, I'll give it a 3. I really I like Ritchie's guitar work in it. I thought he did a great solo. There was some hints of Ritchie in there, the Ritchie that we know is playing, and yeah, it's I think that a lot of the Candace's voice, you know, you guys were talking about it, and it does have that. I think I've kind of hit on what I dislike about it, because she's not a bad singer. It's just not. It's not what I like to hear. I think it's that very kind of like there's really no dynamics in terms of like I think you were saying like vibrato, or it sounds like a keyboard patch. It almost sounds like very like processed. You know what I mean? But not processed like it has effects on it. But it's like she's such a good singer that it almost sounds like it's fake, if that makes any
Right.
sense.
I know what you're saying.
But it's very smooth. She has a very smooth kind of tone or whatever, and it's almost like too smooth. It's like there's no imperfections in it. There's no like a raw passion, I guess you could say.
She doesn't bend notes at all, and she doesn't really use a lot of inflection.
Right,
It's
right.
just, like Nate was saying, it's just a very flat delivery. It's great because she stays perfectly in pitch and key, but yeah, not a lot of emotion behind it.
Yeah, like
And
yeah, exactly.
I think
Technically,
John
it's
John's a big fan of like somebody with like some snarl or some grit and gravel in their voice, and you're just not
Yes.
going to get that from her.
yeah. But that being
Maybe
said,
if
I
she
think that
smoked
it's
for 25
you know.
years, John would
Or if
Yeah.
if
John would be
you
like,
get
oh, this is great.
if you
Yeah,
get
you
Glenn
just-
Hughes guesting on a song or two, and he just brings that grit that he's got into a song. But I think that part might be part of what you don't like about this kind of music, John, is that there's really no moments like that where you really feel something that's happening in the song. These are just like stories being told around a campfire.
Right, exactly. Which is I mean, if she was smoking for 25 years, she wind up rolling up in here, sounded like Lemmy singing these songs, and then it would be a different story.
That wouldn't work either. Okay, so maybe she'd have to smoke for like 10 years. We have to find a happy medium.
Or just,
Nonstop,
gargle some glass, and then she'd be ready in about 10 minutes.
I would like to put forward that I believe she's been smoking for 25 years.
Hey-o.
Ew.
But anyway, I think my favorite part of this is probably like Ritchie's guitar, because he had a solo in it, and the solo was really good. So that's what elevated it for me a little bit.
Rich, what do you think?
See, this is exactly what I was worried about. I backed myself into a corner.
Don't overthink it.
Because I should have given the other two a 2, but that seems a little harsh, because this one is slightly better, but I really don't feel like it deserves a 3. But I did like the guitar solo, and it was, yeah, all right, I'll give it a 3, just to end everybody's pain.
Wow.
Scott?
Well, my pain is ended. I'm going to go with a 4. I think it had a really great feel to it. I really like the flow of the song. I could be wrong, but I think they're layering in a synth pad with Candace. I think she's doing a couple of overdubs to get it predominantly voice, but I think they're putting a pad in there. So if there are any little imperfections in her voice, the pad could be burying those a little bit. But when I listen to the very end and you hear that pad fade out, I think that's what's giving her voice some of that thickness.
Quite possible. I will give this one a 3.5. I really like it. I like a song too that doesn't overstay its welcome. There's obviously songs that are long, and I love them. And if you had tried to stretch this into a 5-minute song, it might have been repetitive, but I think it was perfect. They got in, they got out. It's always funny when you've got a song that's half the length of the previous 2 songs, yet it manages to fit in a guitar solo where the other 2 didn't really have them.
Right.
But yeah, I really like that solo. Like I think it's a melodically great guitar solo. Good composition. Love the layering of the vocals, and it's like the only percussion you have, I think, is just tambourine, like just hitting that every once per bar or whatever they're doing. But yeah, I think it's a really good track. That brings us to our next track, which is Play Minstrel Play. This is a traditional by Pierre Atteillon. I don't know if where's he from? He's from Paris. Okay, Atteillon. No, that's more like New Orleans. That's like Louisiana.
You gotta talk with your tongue in the back of your throat. That's how you do the French accent. You almost have to have the back of your tongue against your throat to get it to work.
Atteillon.
Yeah.
Who was born sometime in the late 1400s, and died sometime in the mid 1500s. Music publisher in Paris. So this is a traditional that is obviously got Blackmore and Knight credits added to it. This one has Ian Anderson on guest flute. And if I ever hear Ian Anderson on flute, I want to hear him going like, doo, 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 yeah, when he does that in between. I don't think we're going to hear that on this one. And then that's Scott Hazelfellow, which we figured out is Ritchie's guitar tech. Yeah, and this is Ritchie says about this one, this is the first time that they played together, sort of. He sent the tape to Ian Anderson. He recorded his part, sent it back, and that was it. Ritchie said he had admired Ian for 25 years prior to this, and that he's a big fan of his music. So here we go, Play Minstrel Play. I feel like I'm remembering this album a lot better than I thought I would.
I feel like any of these songs could be on like the welcome screen of a Dungeons and Dragons game, or like when you're going and picking out your weapons.
Equip your halberd. Scott Hazel has a good voice in the background there.
Yeah, see, those are the kind of vocals I was thinking of on the first song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was on the first song too and uncredited. I don't know.
Could be.
How do you guys feel about Jethro Tull?
Well, I normally hate the flute. I just hate that sound.
Oh, that's right. You've said that before.
I
yeah.
do, but this is very nice. It's mixed in well. There's just certain frequencies that are very ear piercing to me, and it's not an instrument that's normally mixed in well, which is kind of the way I feel about that brass opening. But I think he's playing very nicely here. Very tasteful.
I mean, I think a kazoo would have been better, but the flute's working nicely.
It's not the
No, I
magician's
actually,
birthday.
I actually went through a pretty heavy Jethro Tull stage in my teens. Liked him quite a bit, and I've gone back more recently, listened to some of the deeper cuts, and I actually still like it. So
Yeah.
I was interested to hear this, but I thought he was kind of wasted on the song.
Yeah, so
He's
far,
not-
unless he's got a solo that I can't remember, but
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
dominating
solo.
it or showing off. He's just playing along with it.
yeah, if this is a Jethro Tull song, he'd be droning. Yeah. Yeah, hearing Richie and Ian play together and sync like that is pretty cool.
Yeah, and they weren't physically playing together, which is
Yeah.
just shows how technically good these guys are.
So Rich is going to change it. It was wasted on the first half of the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some pretty good dynamics here.
Yeah, this is great.
Second half of the song should have been its own song.
Yeah.
That's,
Wow,
that would
nice
be like
ending.
one of those rainbow songs where we're like, whoa, what an ending. If there's like the guitar doing that. But still, what an ending. That's just not what you thought you were getting set up for, right? So
No, not at all.
John, Minstrel John,
Ugh. What give thee thy
what are you going to scribe down with your quill as a numerical representation of this song?
I give it a triad of something
Numbers. Of ones, a triad
of
ones.
ones. I give it a triad of ones. Now fetch me my mead, young lad.
He has
Um,
ranked it thrice. Thank you.
Yes, I've ranked it thrice, not twice, but thrice. Before I feel that this is all right, I'm gonna stop.
He's done. He's done.
Yeah, I can't keep it up. Yeah, so this was I thought this was pretty good. I mean, it was like I really think like that second half of the song is kind of what I was talking about. Was there seemed to be some tension, some dynamics there. It was really cool. And I mean, when we were talking about Jethro Tull earlier, I like Rich kind of went through a Jethro Tull phase. Not heavy, but it was I feel like people mention them. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about them, because I would hear them on the radio, classic rock, you hear Aqualung and, some of the, more popular songs, but I think I might've gotten like a greatest hits or something at one point. And I thought that it was really cool to put on when, I was in that, in that mood, because they had that kind of early, like late 60s, early 70s kind of rock sound down. So they were, they were cool for a little while. And I know that they were kind of in vogue for a little while, or there was like a like a resurgence, for them for a little bit, but I've forgotten about them for quite a while. But you could actually, like, I could tell, like, even after not hearing them for all these years, that was him on flute. And I don't know if it's because you've said so or whatever, but it's like he's got a pretty distinct playing style, kind of like Ritchie. And I think it's cool to hear the two of them on a track, because you're like, wow, the guy from Jethro Tull and the guy from Deep Purple playing together. That's pretty neat. And I mean, it came out really well too. So the rest of the song, like the first half, was just kind of was okay, it was just like everything else. But that second half, right to the ending, was pretty good.
All right, Rich.
Well, I did not like the first half of the song much at all. I would probably give that a 2. But I really liked the second half of the song for all the same reasons John just said. There's some dynamics. I mean, them playing that well together, separated, went to different studios, is beyond impressive. And it was good to hear. I obviously couldn't get past the first part of the song, so I forgot that there was that second part of the song where Ian Anderson does some of his signature stuff. The hard breath into the flute, hitting the note, using it as a percussive kind of tool along with the flute. So I really enjoyed that second half. Probably would give the second half a 4, but I'll average it out and I guess give it a 3.
Split the difference. All right, Scott.
Fair enough. I really like the whole thing, actually. I'm going to give it 4 quills because I think the thing was smoking. And now there's another style of music that's similar in some ways to Renaissance music called Roma music or gypsy music. And this was all, this is like literally people who travel around in caravans, write and play these songs at campfires and things like that. And the second half of it reminded me of that style of music. A friend of mine from Cirque du Soleil turned me on to this stuff years ago, and I absolutely love it. In fact, one of the albums I reviewed of Roma music is in the top 10 episodes of those listened to on the Haskincast podcast, which is really surprising. Still, the Kiss episode I did with John is number 1, but there you go. So
Matola Bump.
Yeah. Whenever I need that celebrity, I just know right where to go. But
Has
yeah,
nothing to do with Kiss. Everything
no.
to do with John.
What's even more fascinating about my ranking of this song is how much I despise the flute. So that says a lot about how well this song was done. But also, I don't know if you guys know, but Ian Anderson played with Uriah Heep at a gig, and there's some stuff on YouTube where you can check it out. I think it was also released on a live album. But yeah, very tasteful stuff. I was really impressed with how he integrates with other bands when he's not the primary writer.
Nice. I will give this one a 3.5. I would probably give it a 4 if it was, more in the vein of that last half. As for Jethro Tull, personally, no Iommi, no Tull. That's what I say. Ever since Iommi left the band, it's just been downhill. No, I've always really liked Jethro Tull, and I got like an old used copy of Aqualung for my first car, and just listened to that tape until it wore out. And I got like maybe 5 or 6 of their albums, and just kind of like lost track of them. But everything I've heard by them, I always really enjoyed. It's because it's just, there's nothing quite like it. I love, like, who the hell else would bring a flute into a rock band like that and actually make it super rocky, but yet they also have these kind of Renaissance vibe stuff going on too, like similar to this. Like, so it's just, I think they're a really cool band. But yeah, I like that track. I like that track a lot.
When my brother and I used to jam together, we did Locomotive Breath and Cross-Eyed Mary.
Oh,
I think we tried doing Aqualung, but without a third person. Like, he was a guitar player and I was a drummer, so we kind of needed a third person at least for Aqualung. But a lot of fun to play those songs.
Yeah, one of my worst things was the first thing I ever wrote when I started playing bass, I wrote the riff for Aqualung. I'd never heard the song, and I played it for our friend Scott. I was like, hey, check out what I just wrote. And he's like, oh, that's Aqualung. I'm like, what the hell's Aqualung? And he tells me, and I hear the song, I'm like, son of a bitch. The first thing I ever wrote, like, it was almost note for note. Like, there was one tiny little variation, but I was so pissed off. I was like, come on, man. I just started with this. Somebody throw me a bone. Not that what I would have put together would have been anything like that song, the rest of the song, but it was the riff for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is a cover of a band called Renaissance. Kind of on the nose. And this one is called Ocean Gypsy. Here we go. And this song is from 1975 by the band Renaissance.
You could definitely feel that's Ritchie playing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, just you don't hear a hell of a lot of, aside of Soldier of Fortune and Anya, like you don't hear a lot of him on acoustic.
Yeah, that's true.
Up until this point.
But stylistically, you just know that's Ritchie.
Yep. I heard people referring to this album or this band as being prog, the Renaissance that is.
Really?
But it doesn't sound very proggy, but I don't know much about the band, so maybe they were super proggy and this is...
Sleeping dreams will reach her. She cannot say the words they need. She knows she's alone and she is free.
Did you say Ritchie's doing the keyboards on this album?
Pat Regan is doing them, and let's see if Ritchie has any keyboard credits. He does not have any keyboard credits, so it must be all Pat Regan.
Okay.
And that's our connection to one day doing a Weird Al album review.
There you go.
Dare to be stupid.
I kind of feel like you don't need a reason to do that. You could just do it. Say we're taking a week off and just doing something different.
Yeah, that won't mess with my obsessive compulsive disorder at all.
It doesn't fit into the box.
Get Judy Tenuta on to play some accordion for you.
Eyes were blinded with his light. The sun she gave reflected back the night. The moon was waning, almost out of sight. Softly ocean gypsy calls.
So Candace says that Ritchie went to see them in a club, Renaissance, and that they had this tapes that they gave to him of songs, and this is one of the ones that was on it. And then he and Candace really liked this track, and that like she was kind of like humming it along later when he was figuring out on guitar, but they had to like search through the tapes to like find the song so they could actually write down the lyrics and find out what they were.
I want to know what clubs that band was playing. In an interview, Ritchie said he has 2,000 Renaissance CDs.
Jeez.
He has all of them.
1,000 for
That's
Blackmore's night.
cases of merchandise.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think this band, the band that wrote this song, they were either a New York band but I know that they were kind of popular in the like New England area and.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Let's see. They originated in London.
Okay, so they're not from New England.
But they may have been around. Maybe they resettled in that area.
Just like the Pilgrims.
Yes.
Gypsy shackled to the tide, the ebbing waves, the turning, spreading white. Something gone.
I really do love the atmosphere of the song, though.
Yeah, Candace talks about the haunting melodies.
The band created a significant following in the northeast of the United States
Here you go,
in the
man.
1970s.
Your instinct was right.
It's only because my cousin's husband plays the hammer dulcimer, and I think he told me that.
Oh, really? Does he?
Yeah, for real.
There you go.
There was another, was it trapezoid or something like that? Another
We should
one
have
he
had him
liked.
on instead.
Yeah, right.
Have a dulcimer player tell us what's up.
I would have to think there would be a good application for bands playing this kind of music in like Salem and places like that are giving that older tours and history.
Burbage Village and Salem. And
Maybe I'll put together a Blackmore's Night cover band and head up there.
there you go.
it'd be, Richie's
It'd
manager.
probably be cheaper to just hire Blackmore's Night.
Like,
Richie
who's this
would be
band?
Like, excuse me, that is our territory. If you want to play Blackmore's Night, you need to get out of the Northeast.
You're gonna
He could
need
have
to
a-
buy a longer loading ramp from me.
You gonna pops introduce them? He'd be like, and now introducing Shaylor's Night.
Shaylor's Night.
Shaylor Night.
Shaylor's Night.
He coughs it. And now coming to the stage, Shaylor Night.
Oh.
It sounds better than Van Shaler. So
Oh man. All right. John, what do you think of Ocean Gypsy?
Yeah, I was tuned down for most of that. So I'll give it a 2.
Okay.
It wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't.
Put your
did
rating
you-
in for you, sorry.
Thank you. No, that's good. You saved me the trouble.
It was a lot of trouble.
Yeah, let's keep it.
Finding
yeah,
the
let's-
2 on the keyboard very difficult.
Yeah, let's
copy
just
paste.
keep it moving along here. Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't, it was filler.
No.
Really.
All right. Scott?
I think the real problem is that John's already dropped 2s in for the rest of the songs that we haven't listened to yet. Yeah,
He's gonna
I'm
put
gonna
the
go.
cut out. He's gonna put a cut out there in front of the camera.
Right. I think I'm going to go with a 3 on this one. Like I said, I really like the feel of it, but the song really didn't do anything. 30 seconds in, you had the entire song, and it just continued on from there. I realize this is a storytelling song, but if I were listening to this on an audiobook in the car, I would have just crashed into something by that point, because it just musically there was nothing that kept it interesting. There were no little fill-ins from Ritchie or anything like that really stood out.
Yep. Rich?
I'm still trying to justify all my ratings in my own head, but
Yeah,
it's harder for me than you guys can imagine.
Rich
I'm
is
gonna
going to
go
console
ch-
himself with a lot
I'm
of
gonna go
chocolate after this
2.5.
episode.
I felt like it was slightly less than average, but I'm going to use a scale of Renaissance music, because if I use a scale of just music in general, I would have to change all my ratings. So I'm going to go on a scale of this type of music. It's average 2.5. If there had been more Ritchie soloing in there, maybe it brought it up, but it just way too long of the same thing. Nothing.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll give it a 2.5 too. I agree with what Candace is saying. It's like it is like a really nice haunting melody, but like if that was instead of 6-minute song, a 3-minute song, I think it could have. I don't think it really went anywhere different. I'm not familiar with the original.
Play
I
it for
did
2 minutes
actually-
and let it haunt me.
let the haunting take place afterwards. But yeah, it's not really. It doesn't really jump out at me as being necessary. Like Scott said, in the folk tradition or in the tradition of this kind of music, storytelling sound great. That's, for me personally, not something I'm usually crazy about, is like a song where it tells a long story but doesn't do anything different musically. Like when John and I were on the 70s Weekly podcast this week, and we got to spoilers when we got to American Pie. It's like that's an example of a song for me where I'm just like, oh my god, it's just over and over and over again. Just I don't care for the story. It doesn't do anything for me.
right.
But I would rank the song higher than American Pie.
That song is a reason that every thesaurus should just be banned. Every thesaurus and rhyming dictionary should just be burned to a crisp.
Yeah, rhyming dictionary, Chevy and Levy.
Right.
All right, here we go with the next track up. This one is an instrumental, I believe, Minstrel Hall, the name of the Blackmore residence.
I'm guessing this is an original.
It is, but kind of Bach influenced right there.
Bach.
Bach. Yeah, but I think, you know, Ritchie has stolen more than a few riffs in his day, and it's easy to do from Bach. He's not going to sue you.
Is that a MASH reference?
I think it is.
Bach.
As soon as you guys said that, I pictured Radar O'Reilly doing that.
But it's kind of cool because it's not one for one with Bach, and it takes you into, like, when you think you know where it's going to go, it takes you in a different direction, which is kind of cool.
It's like mock Bach.
Mock Bach.
It's mock.
And I can't tell if those are like keyboard flutes, like a set of keyboard flutes or something, but it sounds really good in the background. It's very quiet. And I think that's the difference if you have the fake brass strings, flutes, and they're subtle in the background versus being that uncommon man thing right in your face, it works a lot better.
Exactly.
But maybe they're real too. That would also work.
I'm trying to figure out if the percussion is percussion or if it's Ritchie actually tapping on his guitar.
Yeah, I just hear him like tapping his guitar.
I'm hearing boom, boom.
No, there's a little tambourine in there too.
Oh yeah, like way, way off in the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Minstrel Hall, which I don't know if that came before they started calling their house Minstrel Hall or if one is named after the other, but there you have it. What do you guys think of that? John, Minstrel Hall.
Here, you put it in for me because you're already there.
John, you've been working hard. Let me type that number in.
And you have to sing the song.
2.5.
That's what I would do if I had to, if Ritchie greeted me. I would show him how I can enter numbers on a spreadsheet. I would really win him over. He'd be like, out, get out.
It was it was a good Ritchie instrumental, but not as I guess not as not one that really kind of was as beautiful and haunting as some of the other stuff that he's written. It was just kind of seemed like he was just going for a style, and he did it, and it was okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, Rich.
Good timing. I was just coughing.
Hey.
Scott.
I'm actually going to give that a 4.
All right.
Wow.
I actually really liked it. I like hearing him play like that, though, and that's when I got the album. That's sort of what I wanted it to be. Was that him, doing that style of music? The finger picking. I don't know. It does it for me. I mean, in all the albums, he usually has one or two of these on there, and they're usually the ones that are standout for me. That, or I forget the term that Scott used for the music, that gypsy infused. He does a bunch of those too, especially on and they're without a doubt my favorite that he does on that stuff, and live as well. So yes, a 4.
Interesting.
Right, Scott.
I agree. I think it's a 4. It wasn't incredibly dramatic like I would have thought it was going to be, but it had a really good feel to it. It was very smooth, very well played. I like the gentleness of the sounds that they layered in, but keeping them in the background instead of, bringing anything up front to kind of, balance the guitar. Yeah, very well done. I love when it feels like Ritchie's just playing because he wants to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what the hell? I'm gonna give it a 4-2. I think it's a really good instrumental, super simple, doesn't overstay its welcome. Yeah, pretty much everything you guys said. What more can you say about Minstrel Hall?
Well, I can say for those of you that are listening to the audio only version of this podcast, assuming it doesn't get banned from YouTube, is the look of disgust on John's face when Nate gave it a 4.
Oh man, I missed it too, and it's going to be lost to time because it's not going to record on the video. I don't think he's not, because it's just going to show me.
Oh, really?
We should have a picture-in-picture where I'm giving the rating and John's in the corner. You can see him go,
oh, can't believe you people giving these songs a 4.
That was great.
I like
Next
this.
one's a Warhorse cover.
But I like this kind of thing. Like, and even if Ritchie had stuck around in Deep Purple or whatever, and they had accepted like doing this hybrid thing and letting him do his thing, and they inserted this as like a little instrumental interlude on a song. Like, I love little things like that are just not a proper song with the whole band, but instrumental, but you just kind of pepper them in an album. I love stuff like that. That stuff always gets me, and if it's at the right length and it's not trying to do too much. But
yeah, this is
Agree.
definitely something I could have seen him doing, when he was playing a solo or something during a Purple show, just kind of going into something like that for a minute or two.
Yep. All right, next track up is Writing on the Wall. It's another Princess Bride sort of.
Strap yourself in, John.
Well, no, this
Got a
is
little-
something else. This is a different song.
Sounds like the opening to Puppet Master.
So this is
What the hell?
This is the dance remix.
So this is Tchaikovsky.
What is this? Like Richie's attempt to like get into the clubs?
I think this is Ritchie's attempt to do ABBA.
I
He
agree.
is a big fan.
He's a huge
All
fan,
right.
yeah.
You got me there.
She even sounds like ABBA on this.
She does. There's a song that they do on the Christmas album called Christmas Eve, and it always cracked me up because there's a very obvious drum machine that Ritchie's playing along to. And I think this is a guy that's played with Ian Paice, Cozy Powell. He could probably hire any drummer in the world, and he's playing to a cheesy sounding drum machine. That always kind of just felt so awkward to me.
I kind of like it. But this is credited to Tchaikovsky, Blackmore, and Knight. And to any big Blackmore's Night fans listening that have picked up on this, I realize that I have accidentally skipped a song, which has only happened once before in the history of the podcast. So we'll go back and do that one.
Now everything's going to be skewed.
You talked about your OCD, Rich. It's driving me absolutely crazy that I did that. I might
The
just
ratings
have
are
to,
not going to make any sense now.
I promise you I'll never remind you of it.
I'll probably flip flop them on the audio podcast. But this is great, like to end the first half of the album with this. And Ritchie says about this song, playing a Strat here.
Is he using his octave pedal?
Sounds like it. So Ritchie said, I wanted to surprise people at first. First they hear medieval music and suddenly the thing turns into a disco beat. I'd say that was successful. Because this is
Won't
not what I
disagree.
think anyone would think after 7 songs of traditional medieval music.
Right.
Another
think-
one I could see him doing with Rainbow.
Oh, for sure. But I think here's where I'd like a little bit more out of Candace's voice than that smoothness, you know, something that kind of pushes the vocals the way that the drums are pushing the song.
The Ritchie falling down the stairs. There we go. Get the long fade out.
Live, he really dragged that one out.
Mm.
Did they play this one?
One of the early shows, yeah, and he pulled the Strat out for it. They do that, and like Black Knight and a couple others
Mm.
on the
Oh, really?
Strat.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, John. What do you think of Blackmore's ABBA?
Well, that was pretty interesting. I give it a 3.
All right.
But it was pretty it was different for him. It was nice to hear some kind of classic Ritchie, although he was turned up to about, like, from a scale of 1 to 10, he was like turned up to a 3. It was like he had his practice amp on in like his parents' house, and he's like, I want to play, but not too loud.
I don't want to wake. My mom's gonna be pissed if I wake her up.
Like you could hear Ritchie in there, but you could tell it was really dialed back. Like it wasn't his regular tone. It sounded like it was really dialed back. But I mean, it's unmistakably him. So it was kind of nice to hear a little bit of the old Ritchie in there with some kind of that kind of disco feel in there. Like, he was onto something, like, all right, I wanted to do something a little different. Well, he shocked the people.
That's right.
So that's good. Yeah, it was kind of a nice break in the action
Right.
there.
Scott.
I'm struggling with this one. I'm gonna give it a 3. I was gonna say 2.5, but I think Ritchie's soloing, just hearing that was nice enough to bump it up to a 3. I think the reason that he was turned down so low is because he would have been too overpowering. I mean, if he had any more of an edge in the guitar, I think it would have just been too overpowering with the other songs and with the instruments in this song. But I'm having such a hard time getting past that drum machine. If this was a demo version of the song that he sent out to the guys in the band to record their parts, I could say this is a great demo version. But for it to be on the album with that drum machine, I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me. So that's why I'll go with a 3.
All right, Rich.
You hit the nail on the head for me, Nate, comparing it to ABBA, because that's kind of what I've always thought about this song. And I know that he loves them, and it's probably what he was going for. I hate the drum machine. And the bass keyboard sound at the beginning, it's enough to make you sick too. But I don't know why I've always liked this song. It was the standout for me when I first heard this album. Like it's a ear candy. It's like, you know what I mean? There's nothing to it. It's nothing special. It's nothing, but it just, like an ABBA song, kind of just gets in there. It's got a cool melody. Great soloing by Ritchie. I just loved hearing him play the Strat again. Especially after hearing all the Renaissance tunes. It's like, oh, look, he can still play the Strat. And I enjoy it. So I'm gonna give it a 4.
All right. Yeah, I really like this one too. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. For some reason, the drum machine should bother me, but it just does. It's definitely jarring when you first hear it. Like, what the hell is going on halfway through this album?
Right.
But despite that, I just think it's like, I think the melody of it's really good, and like yeah, I think it creates a cool mood, and I just like the fact that it kind of breaks things up a little bit. It's not going to be so samey for the whole album. So yeah, I think it's a good track.
I do think that when we look back on the album on the whole, that we're going to say this should have been the last song on the album.
Quite possible. That would be a.
I agree. Yeah, the placement is questionable for
Mhm.
sure. Maybe as a bonus track or an ending track. It actually makes me think of oh, I can't believe I can't get the name of the song on the last Purple. The dancing.
Oh, dancing in my
dancing. Yeah.
Dancing in my sleep.
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah, totally. Where it has like kind of a different sound as from the rest of the album.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
So the next track is called Magical World.
I called your name out loud in the courtyard. The crystal I held was like an old friend.
This is a Blackmore Night original. Well, I'm sorry. This is a Blackmore Night, the traditional wassail, which has additional parts written by Blackmore Night.
As in, here we go a wassailing.
Yeah. So it's
Really?
a traditional sale.
I don't think
usually
I've
like
ever done that.
A Christmas sort of thing.
Another waltz.
Call them like a silver poem. They followed the dance till the music died out. The last time they met was on an earthbed, both knowing they'd meet again in the light. Walls built between
It almost feels a little bit like an Irish folk song too.
yet in our hearts we share the same dream. Feeling so strong we just must carry on to our magical world. In our magical world.
Even though it doesn't have to deal with the themes of Christmas, it sounds like it should be on a Christmas album. Nice stereo work on that guitar solo.
Yeah.
I liked that solo a lot.
Yeah, sounded good.
Was that a classical guitar, do you think?
It was a steel string.
No, it's not steel to me.
Okay.
She said he had an Alvarez guitar and a Taylor that he used on this album. Both acoustic.
Taylors do make some nice acoustics. Some nice vocal layering.
Magical.
Extra magical. Magical square. Breathe that time.
Like when you pour magic shell over your ice cream cone and then you do it
Ooh.
again after it dries.
I was
Ooh.
first introduced to Magic Shell at John's house as a well, we were probably too old to be. We were probably in our 20s or at least late teens. But I remember like I'd never seen it before, and John's mom bought it. We were like, we'd just be sitting there in the basement in our pajamas, like pouring Magic Shell on our ice cream. We were
Man, it was
definitely both
friggin'
at
great.
least- oh yeah, at least old enough to drive. But yeah, we used to love that.
Oh,
great
please. I'd
stuff.
be doing that now unapologetically.
I saw your eyes light up for the first time this episode when you mentioned magic shell.
You talked about magic shell. Oh, yeah, because I mean, you poured it on there and then it formed this shell. And man, that with the taste was just so good. You know, it had to have like tons of chemicals and shit in it.
Oh
It
yeah,
probably
what
wasn't good
else
for
could
you, but
cause it to do that? It shouldn't be able to do
Right.
that.
it shouldn't be able to be allowed to taste it that good too. I can remember how good it tastes. I can like I can taste it now.
Mhm.
I gotta
Is that
run
like
out and get some.
is that like the dip stuff, like when you get a cone and they dip it in?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
crunchy, it's liquid that you pour over it and then it turns into a crunchy chocolate shell
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
But it had a
butterscotch or
different,
whatever.
yeah, but it had a different flavor to it.
Yeah, it was a little
Right.
different than like the Dairy Queen dip, but it was
But
good.
man, was it good. Oof.
Dairy Queen was the first version I had of it, and I could not wait because I knew we were going to Dairy Queen. It had just come out. I was dying to try it, waiting hours for my dad to get off work, and he ended up having to stay late. Made it to Dairy Queen right before they closed. Like it was one of those things that as a kid is the biggest deal in the absolute world.
Yep.
And you look back at it as an adult and you're like, God, I was stupid. Could have had it the next day, you know?
They still
I-
make it.
I just remember when seeing it at, John's mom. I think she came home from the grocery store and she brought this out, and John was like all excited, and I'm like, oh man, what's this? And we tried it, and I was like, it truly was a magical world. I'm like, how does this work? It's like liquid in the container. You put it over, now it's solid. Like this is crazy.
Yeah.
You guys
Magic-
have
magical world.
did you guys have the magic sand when you were a kid? It's probably the same theory.
Are you
It's
sure
got
that might?
sand you could pour in the water, and
Mhm.
it was like, it was like mud in the water, but as soon as you took it out of the water, it turned back to dry sand.
Yep.
Oh no.
It came in a
Yeah.
little, it looked like a Persian bottle with the top, on it that had that little spire on it.
Like a little
and,
genie's lamp or something.
Yeah, like a genie's,
Yeah.
a
Like
genie's lamp.
where
Yeah.
Genie used to live.
Right.
In that bottle or whatever it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah, similar to that. That stuff was
Which-
awesome.
Which is made out of a liquor bottle.
There you go.
There you go. Makes sense.
All right. So wait a
All
minute.
right,
Before we go on to this, right? We're talking about magic shell. So I looked it up. Right. It doesn't have any weird ingredients in it. I mean, it's sugar, sunflower oil, coconut oil, cocoa, chocolate, soy lecithin, milk, salt, vanilla. I have
think
no
if
idea.
if you've got the right combination of
Yeah.
oils, like if you melted butter
Maybe,
and then
yeah.
poured it onto ice cream, it would harden up that same way. And
Right, yeah.
it might not have the same crunch, but it would, if you find something that's going to have that right solidifying point with ice cream,
Yeah.
then I'm sure it took some food engineers to figure it out, but when they did, they figured out magical shell.
But
Yeah,
I'll just
I
read.
just-
I'll
Shell,
just.
magical world.
I
I'll
looked
just-
it
how
up. It
would you
says
rank-
mercury.
Well, I'll
The
just,
first
Mercurochrome.
ingredient.
I'll just read this one review on this. This is on the Smucker's website. One review: utterly useless and disappointing.
Useless and just
Wow.
So
Well,
John,
I
how
think you
would
guys have found your first sponsor.
yeah.
Sponsors the Deep Purple podcast, brought to you by Magic Shell.
Magic
I
Shell.
like how that sounds.
So John, how would you rate magic shell on a scale of 1 to 5?
10. No, 5. Are you kidding me? 5 all the way, man.
All right, how about magical world?
All right, that's going to be a different story.
Although now his talking about magic shell was going to probably artificially inflate this.
Or
And now that
deflate it in
now I'm all,
comparison.
now I'm all excited, so I'll just give 5s to anything. No, this was I would say this is not objectionable. I'll give it a 2.5. It was average. I think the standout was the Ritchie's solo. He's got some good solos in this, and I like
Yeah.
the, what do we say, the stereo quality. It had a different, kind of audio quality to it that made it stand out in this song. So I kind of appreciate that. I'm finding that there are little nuances and touches, in the playing and the production here and there, at least with Ritchie anyways. So, that's good. It makes it interesting.
Okay, Rich.
Well, you could dip it in magic shell.
That's not as good. That would get a one.
Ooh,
from me.
maggot shell. Ugh.
It's a one from John. It's still better than that Butthole Surfers
That's the
version, but
that's the Garbage Pail Kids version of Magic
Heyo.
Shell, or the wacky packages from my generation.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I did not care for it. Loved the Ritchie solo, but other than that, absolutely completely forgettable. So I'm going to give it a.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. We lost him. Oh, here.
Right-
He's
No, I'm
back.
here.
Oh,
Man.
Rich.
I thought the whole thing went.
No, it just you left us on a cliffhanger. You left it with like, I'm gonna give it up. And then it just,
Oh, really?
and then
Find
yeah,
out next
Just
week.
my screen just flashed for a second, and then
yeah. It says your network
Um,
bandwidth is low, so
oh, you know what it is? It's bedtime, and everyone's on their phones.
Yeah.
Yep, Rich is all blurry now. He's all
Well, we're gonna be
pixelated.
wrapping
yeah.
up. We're gonna be wrapping up soon, so
Yes, I am going to give it a 2.
all right.
Wow.
Okay. Scott.
Well, I also had wacky packages, and I also collected the automobile version, Weird Wheels, which were cars that
yep.
had those same kind of strange names. Lots of fun. I will give Maggot Shell a 1, but I will give the song, I'm going to give it a 4 because I thought there were some really beautifully done vocal layers in there. Loved Ritchie's playing on this. And tell me if you disagree, Nate, but I think the way that they're recording this is they've got one mic that's on Ritchie's guitar, like actually picking up his fingers, and another mic on his amp. And I think that's what they're using to create that stereo layer.
It could be. Could be.
Because I'm getting a lot of natural, I feel like I'm sitting right next to him while he's playing. I'm getting a lot of those finger sounds in there. So I think there's a mic there.
Yeah, it's a really, really good acoustic sound on this whole album.
For sure.
I will give this one I'm kind of with Rich on this one. I'll give this one a 2. It's probably of the first half of the album, it's probably my least favorite track. But good guitar solo, good sounds, good production, good vocals. Just to me, it was just a little bit kind of repetitive. So all right. Well, obviously with 4 ratings, we knew we would go a little bit long, but before we wrap it up, we have to do something. We'll wrap up the first half. We'll be back at you next week with the second half. But for the before we get to the closing, we are going to do something, which is to thank our patrons, because they help us, they support us. And if you want to support the show and continue to get episodes every week and keep us in good things, make sure me and John are dressed all fancy. John is the heartthrob of the episode, if you haven't listened to Pot of Thunder this week. Thanking our foundation level patrons. Coming in at the $3 aromatic feed tier, we have Simon Ford. At the $3.33 halfway to evil tier, we have Stephen Sharp and Duncan Leask. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, we have Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Stuart McCord, Flight of the Rat Bat Blue Light, Ivan Fjellbu, it's a great life if you know weekend. Runar Simonson, it's a great life if you know weekend. It's Runar Simonson, it's a great life if you know weekend. Just making up for the fact that I forgot him on one of the last episodes.
I was wondering what that was.
So
I thought you were making fun of the repetitiveness of that last song.
That too. JJ Stenard. Who else we got? Ruinous Inadequacies. John Maselli.
Tanya Stromboli, my little cannoli.
And Michael Boyette. Coming in at the $1.71 I want my own tier.
Rich, Youngwy, Shaylor,
At the 10 kroner tier, Karsten Lau. At the £1 tier, Lord Longford. And at the $1 made-up name tier, the the tomb ticks on, Leaky Mausoleum, Stephen Somerville, the Concerto 1999 Phonetic, Hank the Tank, Private Eyes, Ashen Lionel, and
Blackmore tights.
thank you so much for all of your support of the Deep Purple podcast. And that's it. We're halfway through Blackmore Night's debut album. I got a great picture texted to our group chat of John, of John listening along. So I'll have to post that in the show notes.
Me pontificating or
John looking at the clock. He was staring at my child in time clock behind me now that now has batteries in it. It's telling me proper time.
Nice.
hurry up.
Oh my goodness. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to get back into it next week and
Yeah.
finish this up and hit some reviews of the album and do our normal closing out.
Nice.
All right.
So much
Thanks for
fun.
having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you. And I know I begged and begged to be on a show where I could, actually give ratings, but I'm regretting it now.
Yep.
It's way harder than I anticipated.
Yes.
So if you guys can take anything away from this to make you feel better, is all the crap I gave you guys about ratings all these years. I'm feeling some of the pain now.
It's hard. It's very hard.
Rich, his own
And-
harshest critic.
And trying in your own mind to rate it against everything else you've ever given a 4 or a 3, it's hard to do. You just got to.
Well, that's why I think that's why I put the qualifiers on it and saying I'm just
it's-
comparing it to other things of its type.
Yeah, it's too difficult to do otherwise. So
But I'm
Take
still
that,
not
are
sure.
you
Still not sure I'd give any Blackmore's Night song, a higher rating than Demon's Eye, but hey, whatever.
take that, all you Monday morning quarterbacks.
that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Monday
Learn
morning
from
podcasters.
my mistakes.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.